We'll see how it sounds. It's gonna go out. All right, take it down. And we are on. All right, people, you know what it is. It's the one and the only, the American Cholo podcast. Let me do a little mic check real quick before I go too crazy. And then people say, hey, Gil, you ain't even on, homie. Which, hold on, people, hold on. Let me check. So it's Saturday. It's a beautiful Saturday. We're out of here. All right, so it's Saturday. We're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. I love politics. Today we're talking politics. Let me, first of all, give you a little breakdown who we have today as our guest. He is an American politician, is California's senior Latino elected official since November 1991 and the former mayor of Carson, California. When first elected in 1991, he was California's youngest person to hold public office. It's a great job. A member of the Democratic Party, Robles was elected mayor in 2015 to fill a vacancy and re-elected in 2016. Previously, he was a member of the Carson City Council. Robles is also an 11-term board member of the Water Replenishment District of Southern California. Mr. Robles, thank you for coming on, brother.
Thank you, Gil. Glad to be with you. Thank you.
Was that a good enough introduction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to take you on the road with me, man.
So, first of all, sincerely want to just thank you for coming on. It's a great thing to actually have a mayor come over here that's been in politics for many years. But let's get this thing started. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Mexico, Sonora, and grew up in Carson. I attended local public schools from kindergarten at Carson Street Elementary School through high school as a product of LA Unified School District. Upon graduating, first in my family to graduate, my parents had a sixth grade education.
Oh, wow.
And they were ecstatic that I'd finished high school. But they also instilled on my sister and me that the importance of getting educated and having an education. So I received a scholarship to go to the University of Colorado, where I graduated, double majoring in political science and Latin American studies. I then, like you just said, I too was interested in politics and went to Washington, D.C. as a congressional fellow, and then went to graduate school at USC, where I was a USC Merit Scholarship recipient. Just to clarify, I did not get one of those fancy scholarships that some politicians get, so I didn't get one of those. And then I worked a little bit, and then went to law school, UC Berkeley School of Law, formerly known as Bolt Hall, where I'm proud to say that I graduated with honors. And 20 years practicing law, and including, as you said, being the youngest elected official, first Latino ever elected to the water board that I served on, and being the first Latino ever elected in Carson.
That's
and
awesome.
now I'm running for
Now,
judge.
how do you become the youngest Latino for that? Because I was speaking to my wife, and I was like, man, this guy's got to be sharp. Because at 23 years old, most kids don't even know where they're going. And at 23 years old, you're already out there working for the district, right? For the water district.
Yes, I was elected. If I had gone to a palm reader literally 30 days before the deadline when I pulled my papers to run for office, if the palm reader, fortune teller, had looked at my palm and said, you're going to run for office and be elected, in 5-10 years, let alone 30 days from now, I would have said, no way, you're crazy. Never going to fucking happen.
No.
But it happened. It's a product of circumstances. I was trying to distinguish myself as I was getting ready to apply for graduate school. And someone put in my ear, congressman that I was working for at the time, said, if you're going to go to graduate school, you got to distinguish yourself from all the other applicants. Run for office, you show potential leadership, you show initiative, drive, determination. And I was like, oh, okay. And, one thing led to another. And before I knew it, my cousins and family members were asking me to make flyers. So I made some flyers. It's kind of a funny story.
Let's hear it.
Went to Kinko's. Remember when there was Kinko's? Made some cheap black and white flyers. And then my cousin said, we ran out. We need more, but can you make them color? Can you make him put them on cardstock, make him nicer because people start laughing? So then before I knew it, I was spending more money. People were asking for signs. And before I knew it, to me, I had invested like $10,000. To me, that was a lot of money. That was my money.
That's a lot of money.
And I was like, oh, this is no longer just for show and tell, for a graduate school. I need to win this. And my cousins and I, family, my parents were very supportive. And we went out and knocked and spoke to as many people as I possibly could. And I literally won by 0.1% of the vote.
God.
I defeated an incumbent, becoming the youngest person ever elected to that water board, youngest statewide official at the time, and first Latino ever elected to that water board.
Wow, man, that's an awesome story. And that also goes back to showing you how some grassroots movement can really work, going out there knocking on doors, right?
Yep, absolutely. That makes all the difference.
So how did you go from the water district to eventually stepping up the game in your political career and becoming mayor of Carson?
Well, while I was serving on the water board, people had asked me to run for city council in Carson, and the timing wasn't right, one reason or another. Didn't do it. And eventually, a couple of friends asked me, and I said, you know what? The timing's right. I was up for re-election to the water board. Again, it's kind of weird circumstance how it happened. I was up for re-election to the water board in November of 2012.
Okay.
And nobody ran against me. And, as a political junkie, if you will, I kind of felt lost. Like I had no campaign. I had nothing to do. I was just automatically going to get reelected. And then a situation happened in the city of Carson. There was some conflict there, and I thought I could be helpful and instrumental in moving the city forward. And so I ran for office in March of 2013 and was elected in March of 2013, literally less than 3 or 4 months later.
Very cool,
Yeah.
man. Now, for people who don't really know specifically, what area is Carson in?
Carson is in the South Bay, which was referred to as the South Bay. It's kind of at the intersection of the 405 and the 110 freeway. It's where the Goodyear blimp is based.
Okay, what
It's
cities
where
are around there, like major cities?
Compton to the north,
Okay.
Long Beach to the, I guess that's southeast.
Okay.
To the west, it's the Torrance Boulevard, city of Torrance, right there.
So, as far as the mayor goes, is it like you see in the movies where you've got all kind of give and take and the cop union is pissed off and you got to deal with all these people and then you've got certain like fires that you got to put out? Is that how it is being the mayor?
No, not at all. Most of the time when I say do this, nobody listens. Because the mayor, in actuality, you're part of a legislative body. Other than serving as the presiding officer, you have very little influence because you need a majority of the council to support what you want.
Okay.
done. And so you need to corral, if you will, 2 additional votes. So you, the mayor, and the 2 additional votes, the 3 votes, make the majority of the council, and then you can get things done. And some things require 4 votes. So again, the mayor by himself, it's just more like the face, the for the figurehead, the presiding officer, stuff like that.
Now, when you became mayor, there was some controversy with you because you were still working at the water plant. They were saying you were double dipping, and they actually accused you. And they've accused you on many things, but I don't think you ever
Fake news. No, just go ahead.
Right? But I gotta ask this because I when I started doing my homework on you, I started seeing a lot of stuff and accusations, but there was nothing that ever held, and it just seemed like they were just throwing stuff at you to stick.
Well, that one right there having to do with the incompatibility of public offices, that's one of the biggest gripes that I have and why I'm running for judge. I'm one of those that actually believes when, as a kid, as an adult, when I do the Pledge of Allegiance and we end and justice for all, I believe that that's what justice should be. Fair and equal to everyone. Right. The law needs to be applied equally. In that case, there are individuals throughout the state that hold multiple offices. There are individuals here in LA County that hold 2 elective offices. I don't want to name names, but they hold office, more than 2 offices, and yet they have never, ever been gone after. No one's ever looked at them. And in fact, one time, I'll mention his name because he's the one I asked, Tony Fellow, he served on the city council for El Monte, and he served on the San Gabriel Valley Municipal Water District. And I asked him one time, I said, Tony, have they ever challenged you for holding 2 offices? And now, mind you, to this day, he's been holding off both elected positions for 25 years.
Long time.
Right? And I asked him, Tony, has the district attorney ever come after you for holding 2 offices? He smiled and he said, no, Albert. I said, why? He goes, well, I got a call from Steve Cooley, when the beginning, the district attorney called him and said, hey, Tony, I got a phone call saying that you're holding 2 offices illegally. And this is Tony telling me the story now. And he says, uh-oh, what does that mean? He says, don't worry about it, Tony. I'm going to take care of it. It's like, why did he say that? He said, because he and I are friends, Albert. That is not right. The epitome of injustice and the unfair application of the law. So why target me? Is it because I referred to Steve Cooley as a racist? Because I didn't think he applied the law fairly specifically to black and brown individuals? Is it because I referred to him as incompetent? Is it because I referred to him as one of the most corrupt public officials in the state of California? I don't know why exactly, but he chose to come after. He initiated it, and then when I was on the council, he came after me for other stuff, which never stuck. And then Jackie Lacey, his literally chosen successor. You know how in Mexico they do el dedazo? They used to do it when the president designates, like, oh, you're going to be the next president. Well, Jackie Lacey was Steve Cooley's dedazo. And so she just followed his lead and came after me. I was literally in office as a council member for less than 1 year when they started looking at me for holding both offices. And mind you, Gil, keep this in mind. Politicians, I mean this in a nice way, right? Because politicians are not all bad, but or public servants, if you will. Usually they hold one office, and then there's an election coming up, and they'll run for that one. And then when they get elected to that, so if they lose, they stay in their office. Does that make sense?
Yes.
In 2016, first time ever, I ran for both the Water Replenishment District and Mayor of Carson at the same time, on the same ballots, and the voters decided to vote for me. I mean, I think that's the American way. That's the democratic way, but some people didn't like it.
Are you the type of person that doesn't go with the flow of traffic at times?
Yes. I in my office, I have this. I have two pictures. One is Winston Churchill. I'm paraphrasing his quote. He says, "So you've pissed somebody off? Good. That means you stood for something."
Absolutely.
And then, following on that, standing for something, I have this quote of Emiliano Zapata, who says, "Prefiero morir de pie que vivir de rodillas."
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Prefer to die standing than to live on my knees.
Absolutely.
And that is my mantra. Sometimes people don't like my candor, honesty. They think I'm too raw sometimes. I had a person tell me once, and she's listening, so she might chuckle at this. She told me when I was the mayor of Carson, we had a situation, and I wanted to do, so we imposed a moratorium, and they're like, Albert, people are upset because they don't know what you're doing. I go, what do you mean? I tell them exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, but they think you're up to something. No, I'm telling you exactly what I'm doing. And that's the way I am. I consider myself one of the most transparent politicians that I know. Again, I've met many, many people, presidents, governors, state legislators, and, sorry, kind of changing my train of thought here. One of the things that I learned, I consider myself very lucky to have been elected to the water district first, because these water agencies, you can't serve effectively if you're just thinking about the next election, which is just literally like 4 years down the road. Water projects take decades. They're in the planning stages, decades, if not longer. These are long-term projects. Things that are built, are talked about being built, are for the next generation. And so being in the water district, that's what I learned, that it's all about the future. It's not about the next re-election. And I'm very, very proud of that I brought that mentality to Carson. And that's what I did. We made tremendous changes in Carson during my tenure.
Oh, so, Raider, what is it? Dodger Blue asked the question. I had that question next. You would have been the greatest hero in LA. You almost brought the Chargers, and the Raiders over to Carson, man. That's when I first looked you up. I said, I know this guy. You had that jersey or shirt that had both the Chargers and the Raiders on you, right?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, first of all, I did bring the Raiders. They're coming in September, first game with Chargers, Raiders, first home game. They're coming. So I did bring him.
That's right.
But, it was, first of all, it was an awesome experience to be there at that moment in time to go through that. But when we were first approached, Carson had been used by the NFL as a political token for their own advantage. At least 2 times prior, being told that their stadium was coming, and it was leveraged for benefit of the NFL or another site. So we had 157 acres in Carson that we had when it just happened before I became mayor. They had this entire development planned with an outlet mall, homes, restaurant, commercial district. It was a phenomenal project. It was already on a vacant lot that was formerly a landfill, had been vacant for over 60 years. So this thing was already ready to go.
Right.
So then we're approached by the NFL saying, hey, NFL wants that property for a stadium. And first thing I said, no, not doing it. We already got a project. I used to play on that vacant field. I didn't know at the time it was a landfill, even though, as kids, even though it was fenced off, you still go. You see an empty field, you go in there and play, man.
Yeah, of course.
At least I did. Luckily, I still have all my 10 fingers.
11 fingers.
Yeah. So they came to us and wanted to build something there, and I was like, no, we already got a project. It's already ready to go. Starwood, which is a big company, part of the hotel chain, they were ready to go. And they said, no, this time we're serious. It's like, no, doesn't matter. Then they said, no, we have it. In the past, which is true, in the past, they never had an NFL team. We have an NFL team. And then they said, well, tell me who it is. First, they wouldn't tell me who it is, then forget it. We're not doing it. And then they finally told me, it's the Chargers. And then I said, no, still not doing it. And then they said, well, we got 2 teams. Okay, who's the other team? It's the Raiders. All right, let me think about it. So one of the things I'm very, very proud about is that 157-acre site was never in control by the residents of Carson. It's always in private hands. Different projects had come through, because of one issue or another, couple of bankruptcies, whatnot. It was always vacant. Nothing ever happened. Starwood was the first thing that was about to happen. And they mentioned so now it's a stadium for the Chargers and the Raiders. I met with Mark Davis, met with Mr. Spanos. But anyways, so they wanted to do the stadium, and they said, it's guaranteed. We got 2 teams. It's coming. We just need the land. And then I said, well, if it's guaranteed, what do we get? And the guy, their attorney, looked at me and goes, what do you mean? Well, if you're so confident you're going to get the stadium, it's going to be approved. If it's not approved, what do we get? And then he said, well, what do you want? I said, we want the land. And for the first time, so when the deal fell apart, we got the land for $1, 157 acres.
That's a great deal. Wow. Now that's politics at its finest right there, my man. Man. So you guys went through all this thing. How long was it paperwork-wise, lawyer-wise, to get all this thing going and finally?
Well, the other good thing, too, is that during this whole time, it's costing the city money to pay for our legal bills and consultants. And we also got them to pay for all that stuff because, again, they were so confident that they were going to get it.
What happened, though? Because the Ingle one was a better deal for them?
Well,
better fit?
I've been to it's a beautiful stadium.
Right.
City of Inglewood's a great city. The council members there. Mayor Butts, great guy. He and I developed a great friendship and rapport. Great guy. But location-wise, if you've been there,
I've been there.
It's kind of tough to get in and out.
Yeah, it's tight.
Carson. We had gotten approval from Caltrans to do an off-ramp right into the parking lot and right onto the freeway. Would have been the easiest in and out stadium in the country. So I've asked what happened, and I've gotten different stories here and there, and what I've put together, reconciling the different versions that I've heard. I think it came down to 2 things. One, it came down to the old NFL owners, Spanos, Mark Davis, versus the newer NFL owners. In other words, old money versus new money.
Right.
That was one of them. And the other thing that I've heard is that because if you remember, Al Davis, he had sued the NFL, gotten like $25 million, I think, from all the owners. Literally, he took money from the pockets of all the other owners. And I've heard that, some of them did not want because any team coming to LA, its value would have quadrupled, if not more.
The Raiders.
Yeah, especially the Raiders, yeah.
That thing would have been sold out every day.
Every day.
You would have to arrest half the audience.
In fact, I would speculate that even on the weekends they were not home, it'd be sold out just to watch it on TV as part of the Raider Nation. Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate, man. But hey, you guys got the land, right?
Yep, we got the land.
Have they done anything with that land yet?
Yeah, so for the first time, we had a groundbreaking when I was mayor, right before the COVID. We started constructing, built up, because it's a landfill. Everything that's constructed on it has to be built on piles and a platform. Mm-hmm. So close to $40 million was invested in putting piles.
The methane barrier down at the bottom and all that
exactly.
Stuff.
Yep. And then putting a platform. Yeah, and putting a platform. And the construction is still proceeding. So we're finally going to have some exciting things there.
So something great came out of that, you guys losing it. So one way or another, you guys won. The city won.
Yes, exactly.
Did they give you any credit for that or not?
No.
Man, it's tough.
You mean did they name the street after me? No.
No, but they did name a water plant district or something after you, right?
Yes, they did.
Now tell me what you did there that you got the name there and how they fought you to get that.
It's the Albert Robles Center for Water Recycling and Environmental Learning. It's located in the city of Pico Rivera. As I mentioned, I served on this water board, the Water Replenishment District of Southern California, for 25 years. The jurisdiction is Southern LA County. 43 cities, 4 million residents in Southern LA County. We manage the groundwater basins. And during that process, I learned a lot. And one of the things that I learned is that the Water Replenishment District was the largest single purchaser of imported water in the state of California. People know that, we live in a semi-arid area here. 60% of the water that we consume here in Southern California comes from hundreds and hundreds of miles away, whether it be the Delta up by Sacramento, Mono Lake for the city of LA, or the Colorado River. It comes from hundreds of miles away. Well, the other 40% that rarely ever talked about is our natural groundwater basins. And we have, at the Water Replenishment District, fought to protect that. And back when the district was founded, it was a pioneer in being the first water district in the whole world to use recycled water for replenishment purposes, water replenishment,
Right.
which means it percolates into the ground to replace the water that's extracted via wells. I wanted to increase that amount and make the district self-sustaining so we wouldn't have to keep buying more water.
It wouldn't be the mess we are now.
Exactly. And in order to do that, we needed to expand our use of recycled water. So we were already the LA County Sanitation's district largest customer for recycled water. But in order to increase the amount that we would purchase from them or be able to utilize, the state required us to treat the water to an additional level with the reverse osmosis. And so this project was literally in the making 15 years, almost 15 years in the making, from concept to talking about it.
What year did the concept begin?
I was like 2005, 2006, around there. And originally, it was a joint powers authority of the Water Replenishment District and 3 other water districts and the County Sanitation District. And I was appointed the chairperson of it because we were the one leading the effort, and I stayed the chairperson of it. But, as it happens even now, a little rain comes and they say, oh, we don't need it anymore.
Yes.
Because they don't think about, this is a 20-year, 10, 15, 20-year process. So one water agency would drop out. Another water agency would drop out. And I insisted, no, we're going forward. We need it. We're doing it. And people did not appreciate that. People called me unreasonable. People called me rogue and pushing this forward. But, our staff had done the analysis and our water rates were spiking out of control. And we needed to do something, not only to help our self-sufficiency, but also help control the cost of water, which is, spiking. And so I kept pushing for the project. And eventually the project was located in the city of Pico Rivera, adjacent to the San Gabriel River. And we went through. The other thing that I'm very proud of, it's located literally right across the street from a residential area. Right across the street. It's actually surrounded by river on one side, then it's surrounded by residential community. And when it went to the planning commission and when it went to the city council, not one resident came out in opposition. How many times have you heard of a project, $120 million project being built right across the street from homes, a waste treatment plant, because that's what it is, essentially.
Yes.
We call it a water recycling facility, but it's a waste treatment plant. Not one person, because we made a very strong effort to communicate, ask the residents what they wanted, what they didn't want. And one of the things that they said is that, well, if you're going to do it, we want it to look nice. Okay. If you're going to do it, we want it to have educational opportunities for our kids to learn about water. If you're going to do it, because at that point they didn't have access to the river because the river was right there, give us access to the river. So we incorporated all their thoughts, and now it's a beautiful facility, the Albert Robles Center for water recycling and environmental learning, as I said, and the residents love it. It's it is the most beautiful recycling facility anywhere in the world.
Now, having worked in those kind of projects, right, when the planning is all going down, do you think we as Californians can actually have or build more aqueducts? What do you think would help with the water issue we're having right now?
Well, I know that I think it was last week. No, last week I think it was, where the desalinization plant down in Orange County was just voted down.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen. There was another desalinization plant in.
And why did they vote those down?
Well, there are 2 reasons. One is the cost, because there's a lot of energy costs that go into it. And then secondly, environmental concerns about the damage to the ocean. Right. But recycling water, the energy cost is a lot less. And we have recycled water. We have plenty of it. The thing that people don't understand is that the water molecules that we're drinking, even the one in my coffee, is the same water molecule that our great-great-great-grandparents drank, that the dinosaurs drank. There is no new water on planet Earth. It is the same water. It just goes through the natural process of, evaporating, coming down, rain, and that's how Mother Nature purifies it. What we do at these facilities, we've managed through science to learn how to accelerate the purification and cleaning of water. So we have plenty of water, and to produce water from wastewater is a lot less expensive energy-wise, and a lot less expensive economically wise, and a lot better for the environment. So I think some people think that we need to do that before we start looking at desal.
Okay, but eventually, one day in the future,
we
may have to.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's talk about where your career is heading now. You're running for judge. What judge position are you running for?
I'm running for, thank you. I'm running for LA County Superior Court, seat number 156.
Okay.
So I believe everyone has received their ballot. If you haven't received your ballot, please call the county register recorder's office and get your ballot, because all of them have been mailed. And it's the position. So when you're going to vote for governor, it's the position right before governor. So I'm easy to find. Literally, the governor's office and the judgeship for Albert Robles is right before it.
And what type of judge is that? Like a criminal judge, or?
So the judge who's there now that I'm running against is in the criminal court system. But when you run for judge, that is decided afterwards. In other words, you get elected first, and then it's decided afterwards if you're going to be a criminal judge, a civil judge, what kind of criminal cases, what kind of civil judge, family judge, juvenile system. So that's all decided afterwards.
So it's only there's already a pool of so many judges, and after that they delegate where they go.
Exactly. And the same thing happens to where, right? I mean, there's courthouses all over LA County. So that is decided
I didn't know that.
afterwards too.
Now,
so you don't run for one specific.
Did you just wake up one morning and say, I want to be judge, or was there something that drove you to want to get that position?
When I became mayor of Carson, trying to tie this back in, when I became mayor of Carson, I was asked, I grew up in Carson, played at our parks, was in Little League there. And as I mentioned, went to Carson Street Elementary School. When I became mayor, I was asked, oh, wow, this must be like a dream come true for you. And I was like, no. And, lady who asked me that was shocked. And she said, why? I go, as a kid playing, I could never even dream of becoming mayor, let alone council member, let alone it's not something that was in my mind. Just never possible. Never thought about it. But when I went to law school, I externed for a federal judge in downtown LA, Judge Hatter, and he became a mentor of mine. I was talking to him, and he told me his story about how he became a judge. He was in the federal court system, but he started in the state court system. And I thought, maybe one day I could be a judge. So kind of like in my infancy of my legal career, I did dream of becoming a judge, but you cannot become a judge right away. You have to practice law for a minimum 10 years before you could even run for judge. I've been an attorney now for over 20 years. And after my proven public service record as a mayor of Carson and on the water board, I think, and my two kids now are now older, I think the time is now right for me to look at other ways for me to continue serving. So I thought about running for judge over the last summer, and I started looking at it. And as I was looking at it, there were a couple of vacancies that were going to be announced. And most people, when they run, so let me back up, explain a little bit about how this happens. There are over 500 judges in LA County. Every 2 years, about 160 of them or so are up for re-election. If nobody runs against a judge, their name never appears on the ballot. Just never there. So if someone retires within a certain period before the election, that seat is vacant, and that's when people run for those vacancies. So when you'll see like 3 or 4, sometimes 5 people running for one judgeship, you'll notice that it's very rare for 5 people to challenge an incumbent judge. So I was looking at running for one of those open seats. But there were already people who had already been planning to run for judge for 2-3 years. Some had raised $300,000 already. A couple had raised close to $200,000. And for me to just get started on that, I started thinking, you know what? Maybe I should just start planning for 2 years from now. So I called a friend of mine who works for the LA City Attorney's Office, and I asked him. Well, he called me, and he asked me, "Oh, Albert, have you decided what office you're going to run for?" And I said, "I'm thinking about not doing it anymore. I don't think the time is right." And I explained, oh, and then if you don't get 50%, you have to do it again in November, right? So there's a runoff between the top two vote getters. So to have to raise, 150,000 once is bad enough, but then to have to raise 150,000 twice, it's like that's way too much money, too high for my blood, as they say. And so I told him, I'm thinking about not doing it. And he says, no, Albert, you need to run against a judge. That's why it's just you one-on-one. I go, yeah, but which one? And he is the one that told me about the judge that I'm running against. He told me about this public admonishment that was issued, and if I could read to it.
Yeah, well, first of all, what's a public admonishment?
Oh, yes, public admonishment. So there's a statewide commission that's created in the California Constitution.
Yes.
And this commission is supposed to discipline judges for misconduct and misbehavior. So if you're in court and you lose your case because the judge misapplied the law or misinterpreted the facts, that's an appeal. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about judges who misbehave because of their personal bias, because they've done something that is in violation of the judicial code of conduct. They've abused their judicial authority, something aside from what they're legally required to do. This judge had complaints against her, and the Commission on Judicial Performance, after a very thorough investigation that included reviewing transcripts under penalty of perjury, that included giving her, the judge, an opportunity to explain, which she totally lied in her explanation because they were not consistent with the facts. After giving her attorney an opportunity to try to defend her, and may also include sending individuals into her courtroom to privately watch her to see how she behaves. After doing all that, a couple of years ago, they issued this public admonishment, and there's a number of alternatives that the commission could have done. They could have, which they do with most complaints, they just dismiss them. They investigate and they said there's really nothing there. They dismiss them. They could have written her a private letter, put it in her file, so in case she does it again, it's documented that it's happened before. They could have done a private admonishment, which again, it's a more stern warning, but it's in her file, so if it happens again, they know that she knew how serious it was the first time, and she continued to engage it, so the consequences are much dire for her. And then there's the public admonishment, which she got, so it was made public to everybody. In other words, the way I interpret it, it's as if the state commission is saying, this judge is bad enough for a public admonishment that everyone needs to know, so when she's up for re-election, someone runs against her and she doesn't get elected because she's got to go.
Okay, read it to us, please.
And when I read to you what she was found to have done, you'll see. So it says, it defines where the authority of the commission comes from. It says the Commission on Judicial Performance, having considered the written and oral objections and argument submitted by Judge Ellswick and her counsel, and good cause appearing, the Commission on Judicial Performance issues this public admonishment. So now, after their investigation, here's what they concluded. Quote, the commission concluded that Judge Ellswick disregarded the fundamental rights of defendants, abused her authority, conveyed the appearance of bias and prejudgment, and violated the Code of Judicial Ethics as set forth. And this is a 16-page document detailing how they came to that conclusion. And I am of the opinion that, there's a saying that freedom is not free. Those of us who are able to need to do what we can, whether it's, some of us can only vote.
Yes.
And we can't do more. But I saw this as a sign, if you will, for me to run against this judge, to prevent her from continuing. If she's done it once, she's already done it. And these instances are not just single isolated instances. It's a 16-page public admonishment that details a number of incidences. And I think that this judge even though she's been there a long, long time, for her to engage in this conduct is just unacceptable.
And most people, the sad reality is that most common voters won't ever read anything like that. They would have no clue.
They would never have any clue. And I tell you what's really sad about it is that you would think the LA Times would write about this. You would think the mainstream media would cover this, but they didn't. And that to me is a travesty in itself. I don't understand how the LA Times.
But that's kind of ironic because you're a Democrat. You've been a lifelong Democrat, and you're using phrases that people people will sit there and think about, fake news, that whole thing. But it's true. I mean, why is it that, like the LA Times, why do they pick and choose stories instead of just putting the whole truth out there?
I don't know, and that is unfair. And I've been the victim of the fake news. Like I said, I didn't vote for Trump because you said I'm a Democrat. I didn't vote for Trump, but he was absolutely right that there is such thing as fake news. He was the victim of some fake news.
Yes,
a lot of it was true.
Let's be real. That's real. Yeah.
A lot of it was true, but there was some fake news.
Right.
And I've been the victim of fake news. I've been sued, and it makes headline news, almost like front page news. But yet, when the lawsuit is dismissed because it's frivolous, because it's baseless, there's not the follow up. The story is not as big.
Do you believe also that it may have something to do with the fact that you're a Mexican American, and a lot of times we don't have that kind of representation out there, like in the voting community block?
Unfortunately, I think there's truth to that. It's a sad reality that even though as Latinos we are percentage-wise the largest component of the population in the state of California, and especially here in LA County, but I don't think we are given the due respect.
No, not.
There's this thing that I don't know if I've coined it, but I'm gonna take credit for it unless someone tells me otherwise, because I didn't hear this before anywhere. Latinos merecen justicia también.
Absolutely.
And I think that's lacking.
Absolutely.
We seem to be an ethnicity that seems to be easily picked on.
Yes.
And people get away with it.
Yes.
And that's just wrong. And that's one of the reasons I'm running for judge. I'm running for judge because it's not about politics, but what it is about is fairness, equality, treating everybody the same. That's all we want.
Absolutely.
Is to be treated the same, not any different, not any better, just the same. And that when Latinos are not treated the same, it seems to be easily excused.
It does, Albert. I say this. I say that everybody else is at the adult table when it comes to politics, and us, raza, we're at the kids' table. And until we actually use our numbers to get elected and get people like you elected, we're going to continue to be at the kids' table. So we need to wake up and get in there. The LA Times also likes picking on Sheriff Villanueva. What's your take on Sheriff Villanueva?
Well, I like Alex. I like the sheriff. As a candidate for judge, I cannot endorse anyone. But I've developed a good rapport with him. I can tell you that when he first ran, I did not support him. I supported the incumbent sheriff.
Right.
My sister, who lives in Silver Lake, I don't know if you remember that incident that happened at that Trader Joe's where the guy was chased and he ran inside. So my sister was one of the hostages in the back.
Okay.
And she calls me and she tells me that, she's whispering. Of course, I don't know what's going on. I was like, speak up. I can't hear you. She goes, watch the news. Call me back. And I was like, I just hang up. I have no idea what she's talking about. And I'm in Orange County. I had taken my son to a soccer tournament in Orange County, and she calls me back. And I was like, I can't hear you. You need to speak louder. And then I finally hear what she tells me, that she's being held hostage in a storage room at the Trader Joe's. I then look at the news and say, holy shit. I call our captain in Carson, who then calls the sheriff. The sheriff then calls me as I'm racing back. And he goes, no, there's no need for you to come. No, that's my sister, my only sibling. I have to be there. He goes, okay, well, when you get there, just tell him that I said it's okay for you to come to the command center. So the sheriff was phenomenal with me. And, until you're the victim of a crime, you don't know the value of law enforcement.
Yes, sir.
And I have the utmost respect for all law enforcement. And so when the sheriff was running for re-election, I supported him. I had to. I mean, he was there for me and my family when we needed him.
Correct.
And so then, but then Alex Villanueva got elected. And one of the things that he did that I've never seen any other sheriff do before, he came to our city, not as part of like a gun exchange program or to speak at, at a council meeting to present something. He came for a town hall meeting, and I asked him, I was the mayor. He reached out to me. He came. I said, "You're absolutely welcome." And he came, and we talked, and he's like, yeah, he's going to go around to every contract city to have town hall meetings, to not hear just from the politicians, but to hear directly from the residents.
Yes.
And he did that. And you got to respect anyone who does that.
Yes.
And he was the first sheriff to ever do that. So I give him a lot of credit for being out in the community and listening to the concerns that residents had. And, I get it that some people are upset that, well, he represented himself one way, he got elected, he's doing something else. Well, I add this component. Maybe he's listened to the people.
Yes.
Maybe he listened to the residents, says, hey, I got to do what the residents want. And I think he's doing that.
No, I myself, I don't say we, the whole platform, because Chris might not and Booba might. I myself support what Sheriff Villanueva is doing. I think he has backbone where a lot of politicians just simply don't. I think the reason a lot of politicians turned their back on him was when he started going around and saying, dude, we got to do something with this homeless problem. You guys are not doing it. You guys are hiding it. You guys are saying it's not here. And he went to Venice. He said, I'm going to clear them out. And I think he's not their toy, and they can't handle that they got a sheriff that really wants to go out there and enforce the laws and wants to keep people safe. I mean, it's either one or the other. You're going to pick the sheriffs, you're going to pick the criminals. You can't sit there and have both. And here, myself, I think he's doing a pretty good job for what we got, but hopefully some of these politicians out here in LA and in the state will start getting some backbone and not have LA look like Gotham City, because now LA, you're getting robbed everywhere. It seems like it's a trend.
That's true. And, we have voted for HHH and H and, billions and billions of dollars thrown at the homelessness situation. And it just seems to have gotten worse and worse. Yes. And the only improvement that I've seen is when the sheriff went out and started cleaning them up.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And, so I give him much respect for what he's done. He's got a difficult job.
Yes, sir.
And I actually respect him too for standing up to the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, absolutely.
The Board of Supervisors that, as you said, some of the politicians that we have created and exacerbated the homelessness crisis that we are in. I don't understand how. I did the math once. Maybe one of your listeners can double check this. I did the math once. I think you could get every single homeless person in LA County $100,000. And maybe they may do whatever. Obviously, some of them are going to spend it.
Oh, they're going to buy meth.
Or do whatever.
Let's be real.
But there are going to be some. But there are going to be some who are going to do the right thing, because there are homeless people that work minimum wage jobs and live in the car. There are students that
But the majority out
here. Yeah, there are. Yes, but you could give every homeless person $100,000 and still have billions left over.
Yes.
Still have billions left over.
It's a slush fund where everybody's putting all these programs, social programs. Developers are loving it because they're getting hotels built. Like out here, we got a hotel built after the hotel was done, after the permits were pulled. This is the kind of moves they're making. After all that was done, they pull the Best Western sign out. They make it a place for homeless people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that way people
That's
deceiving. And they know they're doing it. And the Best Western says, no problem, because I'm going to have every single room rented out every day. And who's paying it? We as taxpayers are paying that. Well, this was an absolutely great conversation. I truly enjoyed it. Again, tell people where they can maybe support you as far as any social media, where they're going to find you on the ballot, everything. Again, let them know.
Thank you, Gil. Oh, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the program. And again, Albert Robles, running for LA County Superior Court Judge, seat number 156. It's literally the last position that you're going to see on your ballot right before voting for governor. Easy place to find it. If you're going to vote for governor You have to vote for me, Albert Robles. And I'm looking forward to being an unbiased, fair judge who's going to respect everyone's fundamental rights and not be biased against anyone and apply the law fairly and equally, regardless of socioeconomic background, regardless of where you live, and regardless of who you are.
Perfect.
Thank you for your support. Oh, and my website is albert-robles.org. albert-robles.org.
We'll put it in the description. All right, Chris, let everybody know. I hope you guys learned something because I absolutely did. It was a great conversation, Albert. Hope to have you back again as the judge, of course.
Yes, thank you.
Other than that, guys, you guys have a great weekend. Chris, fade to black. And we're out of here. Usually I get my headphones. I don't have them on today. All right. One for
Thank
Robles.
you.
There you go.
Oh,
All right.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.